10 years ago, about this same time of night, the largest wildfire in the history of California was just getting started. The Cedar Fire, 2003, right here in San Diego County. Now, we're going to look at the people affected by this in just a moment. But first of all, let's relive those horrible nights and days. Late that afternoon, a lost hunter east of Ramona set a signal fire, and the Santa Ana winds blew it into a monster, pushing the flames to the south and west right into the San Diego Country Estates. It was just after 6 p.m. It was dark, and the critical firefighting aircraft were grounded. There was little to stop the fire from racing toward Ramona. From midnight to 2 a.m., the Cedar Fire grew from 5,000 acres to over 28,000 acres. The people that night were terrified.
We left, the fire was coming right down the hill behind our house, so we don't know what we'll find when we go home.
Our wonderful neighbor knocked on our door at 2 a.m. this morning and said the fire's on its way. So we started packing up everything.
And then it took aim at Wildcat Canyon, where people were trapped. Firefighters estimated the flames were moving a mile a minute, scores of homes and lives in its way. 12 of the 15 people killed in this fire died trying to get out of Wildcat Canyon. The growing Cedar Fire then headed toward Poway, and then people in Tierra Santa started reporting hot embers falling. It was a bad omen for them. People in Scripps Ranch were told to pack up and run. The fire was obviously coming their way. Flames were licking 40 feet into the air. The wind was relentless. Firefighters told us they were doing what they could, but the weather was in charge of this one. At one point, a call went out that they expected to lose 60% of the structures in Scripps Ranch, and still no major air support to fight this fire. Firefighters said if we don't get help from water-dropping choppers, we are in big trouble. By evening, the fire had reached Tierra Santa, where one news photographer found himself way too close.
Okay, I gotta get out of here.
Then it changed direction, burning east through the Cuyamacas. This time-lapse video was recorded at the top of Mount Laguna, and you can watch it. You can see the smoke getting closer and closer to the mountaintop camera. Firefighter Stephen Rucker died battling the flames outside Julian. In the end, 15 people in all died in the Cedar Fire, 2,820 structures burned. It was a 427-square-mile killer 10 years ago. Well, since the Cedar Fire, things have changed dramatically. Emergency response coordination has improved. Planes and choppers can now fly at night and fight those fires from the air, giving crews a much better chance on the ground. It seems we have learned our lessons.
Well, local firefighters and leaders are reflecting on the biggest blaze in California history. A news conference was held in Scripps Ranch, a community ravaged by the Cedar Fire.
Today we remember, today we mourn, and today we take stock. We lost so much in the Cedar Fire.
What stands out in my mind the most from 10 years ago is the sheer magnitude of what we were dealing with.
Over 500,000 people were evacuated during that by our police departments, our law enforcement officials from the county, the sheriff's department, and they did a fantastic job getting people out of harm's way.
We saw neighbors pull together to support each other, and many San Diegans came to the aid of both Scripps Ranch and Tierra Santa to help in the aftermath.
For the county of San Diego and the region as a whole, the fires provided many hard lessons that have made us better prepared for the next disaster.
Even San Diegans who lost nothing remember the sense of fear and loss the community felt on that very tragic day.
Well, community leaders and Cedar Fire survivors dedicated a memorial today so we might never forget this fire and what it cost and what it taught us. Leslie Lopez was there this morning at Lakeside's River Park Fire Station.
We woke up in the middle of the night to flames outside our window, and we were among those people Chuck mentioned who didn't know that the fire was coming. It moved so quickly, and we had to grab our animals and a few pictures off the walls and dressers and run for our lives. I is to inform yourself, watch the news, the weather, get a scanner app for your iPhone to see what's happening in the field in real time. V, value yourself more than your possessions. Don't waste time packing your car. And E, evacuate early. That's the biggie. We ended up driving through flames, and you don't want that.
See it now. You know, it's basic.
Younger wrote a book on her experiences in the Cedar Fire called The Fire Outside My Window.
Well, a lot has changed since the Cedar Fire 10 years ago. Among other things, a revised firefighting policy, better agency relationships, and more equipment both in the air and on the ground. KUSI's Ed Linderman has that part of our coverage tonight.
See this big Huey 205 Sheriff's helicopter being rolled out of a hangar at Gillespie Field? That's a CAL FIRE crew, a crew that is stationed at the airport. It's the same crew that Sheriff's Astrea pilot Dave Walden can drop off at a small brush fire, while another same-size Sheriff's helicopter, if necessary, is overhead dropping water. Both helos are equipped with 376-gallon water tanks. One goal in mind here, keep the fire from becoming a larger fire. Walden was live with us all morning, as were representatives of CAL FIRE.
We're called initial attack for a reason. We want to get there before it gets big. We want to keep it small.
The helicopters didn't exist in 2003. It's just one example of how much has changed in the decade since the Cedar Fire.
Taking advantage of their pilots and their aircraft, their tools, their mechanics, and CAL FIRE gets the benefit of being able to place their seasoned firefighters on board to work with the sheriffs.
The city had a helicopter in 2003, but it was a contract helo and was elsewhere at the time. The San Diego Fire Department now has 2 full-time choppers. What's more, unlike 2003, we can also call on our local military for aerial support.
Now, we train with them on an annual basis. We train with them on a monthly basis. So we have agreements in place that are recognized not only nationally, but internationally. There's nobody that has a relationship with the Sheriff's Department like we do in the nation. There's nobody that has a relationship with the military in San Diego County like we do internationally, much less nationally.
2013 also finds us with a county fire authority. In 2003, there was little coordination among the various rural volunteer departments. And speaking of coordination, radio communications, vital when there's such a holocaust, were also an issue in 2003. Now that's all standardized, so various agencies can talk with each other. Having said that, everybody with whom we spoke recognizes this. 2003 was our perfect storm. When the fire started, night falling, where it started, San Diego River drainage, and just as fierce Santa Ana winds were developing.
It's like standing on the beach trying to stop a tsunami when we were trying in the backcountry to stop this tsunami of fire rolling at us. It was very difficult.
Ed Linderman, KUSI News.